Yo, 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 it's your girl and boy CT. I'm Cindy Barnes.
And I'm Travis Barnes.
And we are the founders of the Overcomers Podcast.
Sponsored by Journey 333. That is a place of mind, body, spirit that helps you with fitness, coaching, and nutrition to look better, live better, and feel better. We produce these episodes every week for your enjoyment to help people to overcome adversity and live their dreams.
Yo, 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 it's your boy TB. Hello, Overcomer Nation. Today on this show, it's me and you. That's right, you and me and you. We are going to be talking about 2022. Yeah, it's just around the corner. Are you thinking about it? Are you planning for it? They say not planning is planning to fail. Well, today's episode is sponsored, as always, by Journey 333. That's a place of mind, body, spirit. Today, we're going to help you get your mind right. It's fitness, coaching, and nutrition, where we help you to look better, live better, and feel better. I promise you that today's episode is going to help you do all that. So let's talk about 2022. We are going to be having a vision workshop at Journey. I believe that a man or woman without a dream is like a car without gasoline. So today, like I say, I want you to be my guest on this episode as I ask you some important questions. So if you're watching this video style, which you can always do, you can go to our YouTube channel or whatnot. I'm going to be showing you a little screen share. If you're not, if you're riding in the car, or if you're working out at the gym, all that's fine as well, because you'll be able to hear me read the questions right to you. I wanted to ask you, I want to start off, here's our cover. Like, do you feel like life is happening for you, or do you feel like life is happening to you? Think about that for a second. Is life happening for you or to you? I believe that life loves you. Through the ups, through the downs, whatever you're facing, on the other side of adversity is always something sweet. It's called victory, right? And so you have to go through that adversity in order to become more of who you are. I read a quote the other day, and it said that when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person. That's what the storm is for, right? So let me ask you a question as we draw towards the end of 2021 and into 2022. I want to ask you an important question. I want to ask you, who are you? Who are you? I got news for you. You're not what you do. Wait a second. You mean I'm not a police officer, a school teacher, a mom, a dad, a businessman, an entrepreneur? Nope. Sorry, friends. And here's a simple exercise that'll show you that. You see, you're not what you do, because if you stop doing what you do, then who are you? And you're not what you have, because if you lose what you have, then who are you? You're not even what you've accomplished. Your accomplishments might happen because of who you are, but they're still not exactly you. And what others think of you, that doesn't count either, because that really doesn't matter, does it? What other people think of you is none of your business. That's right. And you're not separate from others. You're not even separate from God if you have a belief about God. I'd like to challenge the belief system that says that he's some cosmic bellboy floating around heaven on a cloud, answering your wishes sometimes and sometimes not, depending on whether or not you've been good or bad, made the nice or naughty list. I don't really think that it works quite like that. I believe that you got a little piece of God inside you. So who are you? Well, you see, you are that piece, that unique creation. When you feel inspired, you are in spirit. Our physical bodies change, but that little piece of us that when we were young and we were passionate about certain things and we could get excited and enthusiastic, that's the part that's unchanging. That's the part that's ever evolving. That's the part that's infinite. So when we go deep today, I'm going to ask you to get in touch with your soul. That's right. I want you to have some soul food with me, some soul food that will help you to shape 2022 to be your best year yet. Do you realize that we're only going to spend about, 30, 40 minutes right here on this podcast? And as we do that, you're only spending 0.0001 of your year, 1%, right? 0.0001%, just a fraction of your year, but that it could really change your life forever. So be my guest and answer my questions today. Let me ask you now, since we were talking about the soul and the things that make you feel inspired and that is the real you, what things make your soul sing? What are they? What gets you excited? Think about that for a second. For me, it's fitness. I love being a coach. I love to travel to different places and experience different cultures and meet new people. I love spending time with friends and family. I believe that friends are the family that we meet along the way. I love speaking. I love how a single sentence from my life can help somebody to rewrite their own. I love leading. There's been a lot of responsibility placed on different business owners over the last couple of years of shutdown and pandemic. And I believe that I was built for winter. I believe that I was created for those times. And I'm glad that I could have the honor to lead the locations that I have and that we still have all of these different journey locations open. So what makes your soul sing? Are you like me? Are you a leader? Are you a coach? Are you mom, a dad, somebody's, do you enjoy those friendships? Do you enjoy seeing new places? What makes your soul sing? Know what those things are, because the secret to life is doing those things that make your soul sing and not doing those things that really are kind of like energy vampires, right? They suck the life right out of you. If you want a life that's more fulfilling, spend time doing the things that make your soul sing. Well, let's take a look back at 2021 and beyond. The end of 2021 marks the end of almost 2 years of pandemic. What have you learned over the last 2 years? What have you learned? I'll tell you what I've learned. I've learned how important relationships are. We have some friends in Canada. Shout out to Tony and Sherry. We still haven't been able to see them. It's just been so difficult to see people that are, across the border. Beyond that, I've learned how important relationships are, because we really wouldn't still be in business today if it wasn't for the people that love Journey so much and love their coaches so much that they wanted to see us survive the pandemic so they could support us. So they supported us to the best of their ability. They joined us virtually, or they paid for memberships that they weren't using. If you're one of those people and you're listening right now, thank you for that. So I've learned how important relationships are. What have you learned? What we learn, we grow, right? So when we learn, we grow. And then I want to ask you, what have you accomplished in your life? If I was to ask you about your accomplishments, and remember, those aren't who you are, but they're still important, right? It's important to reflect. It's important. You see, sometimes when you're looking ahead, you don't understand the road ahead. But when you look back, you say, oh, I know why that had to happen. I know what that was about, that was a stepping stone in my life. So for me, when I look back on my accomplishments, it's an accomplishment to still be in business today. That's for sure an accomplishment. I've helped a couple people in this past year become business owners. Shout out to Logan and JC, who are now franchisees with us. I'm working on helping others become that. I've always believed that your job in life is to help others go where you're going, if that's their path. So as a speaker, I've helped other people become speakers or presenters. As a business owner, I've helped other people become business owners. As an author, I've helped other people become authors. And those are my greatest accomplishments, really. They have a lot more to do with what I've done for others and what I've done for myself. Also excited that I'm about to celebrate 22 years of marriage. I renewed my vows this year. That was an accomplishment. Paid off some debts. How about you? Have you been able to pay down some debts? Sometimes times like this might increase debts, and that's okay too, if that's where you're at. Just got to be where you're at. That's right. So what are your accomplishments? What are those things? Are you more fit this year than you were last year? Or are you about to get more fit next year? What's it going to be? Think about those accomplishments, because those tell you a little bit about your path. And then think about gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. Let me ask you this. Who or what are you grateful for in your life? What are you most grateful for? What's happened to you this past year in 2021 that you can be grateful for? And this is very important. Starting your day with an attitude of gratitude, what that does is it creates more of those things in your life that you're grateful for. For example, of course, I'm grateful for Cindy. She's a great business partner. She's a great wife. She's a great friend. I'm grateful for our daughter. I'm grateful for even the struggles that she's gone through, because they make her the woman that she's going to become. She's going to be a great, wonderful woman doing great things for people someday. And she's already doing some great things. But I just know that as we go through the struggles, I know what's on the other side. I'm grateful for our team. Yeah, we got a great journey team. We've gone through this pandemic together. And not only was I able to help as a leader, help people get through it, but they stuck beside me too. They didn't leave for other jobs, when there were businesses that were shut down and fitness was the main one of the main ones. They still stayed committed. So grateful for that team that we have. Grateful for people that, all the members that decided to support us. I know I've already spoke about that, but I can't leave that out of the gratitude list. I'm grateful for all the people that come along and join Journey and trust us with their fitness. So what are you grateful for? Is it a loved one? Is it a spouse? Is it a friend? Is it a family member? Have you accomplished certain things? Have you taken certain trips this year? I know that we've had some pretty remarkable trips. We got to go on a family cruise, a vaccinated cruise. That's right. If you're vaccinated, you get to go on the cruise ship. So what are you grateful for? Is it trips? Is it places? Is it people? Is it things? Well, I also want to give a shout out to new friends. Grateful for Michael Goddard. As I speak about trips, man, he took us on a really cool trip, and I'm just so grateful for his friendship. I sometimes connect with certain people, and I think to myself, I'm like, your soul and my soul are old friends, because you just share like an instant connection, and that was a great trip. So write down what you're grateful for, or just log it in your mind, because that attitude of gratitude is what's going to attract more of that into your life. You find what you look for. It's what you focus on. Let's go on to the next one. I'm going to talk to you today about a thing that a mentor of mine, Todd Durkin, introduced to me, and it's called the 10 Forms of Wealth. He's been a great mentor in my life for 10 years. I know that his thumbprints are all over Journey. They're all over my life. In fact, this process that I'm sharing with you today is a bit of a roadmap. See, Todd has this thing that he sent to me for almost 10 years now. And it's been this roadmap, and he challenges me to answer all these questions like I'm challenging you today. And I'm going to tell you that some of the things I've put down in this roadmap have been things like, I think I'd like to have a second location. And then years later it was, I think I'd like to have a franchise, or I think I'd like to be an author, or I think I'd like to be a presenter, or maybe I'd like to take a certain trip somewhere. We have the power to manifest things into our life. That is that little spirit that we were talking about earlier, that little piece of God that's inside you. It's powerful. The things that you focus on when you're grateful for certain things in your life, you will find that you attract more of those things into your life. You will find that when you write something down on paper, or when you focus on it, all of a sudden you just attract it. And if you don't even want to look at it from a spiritual sense, look at it from a scientific sense. Yeah, scientifically, there's a thing called the reticular activating system. That's RAS. You can Google that, look that up. But what it's all about is really, if I start to become aware of a certain thing, I'm going to notice that certain thing. An example that people always recognize is when you thought that your car was so unique, you went out and you got that certain car, and then you're driving down the road and then you see other cars just like that car that you got. And you're like, wait a second, I thought this was the only one. How did so many people go out and get the same car on the same day as me? And now there's so many on the road. No, your reticular activating system just became more aware of that car. It's also true with negative things. So you have to be careful what you focus on, because you can attract more negative things into your life. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our 10 forms of wealth right now, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about each one. And I'm going to challenge you to rank those areas in your life. I've been talking a little bit about the spiritual self, the inner self. I believe that we have two selves, and you probably do too. Whether you recognize in the same way as me, you can certainly recognize that you've probably said at some point in your life, I'm driving myself crazy, or I can't stand myself right now, right? When you say those things, you're recognizing that you have a lower self and a higher self. And that's what we're talking about. So how are you doing with that self? How are you doing with nurturing that part of your spirit, that infinite self, moving it in a great direction? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, rank it for me right now. Here's one as a coach that I love to talk about. How's your physical health? Do you feel like you've gained some weight during the pandemic, or did you make the pandemic a time to buckle down and become your best self? Are you dealing with certain issues right now that you'd like to address? Are they joint issues? Are you on certain medications you'd like to get off of? Where are you at? How's your vitals? How's your blood pressure? How do you feel? How's your energy? How's your strength? How's your stamina? On a scale of 1 to 10, rank that. As I said, we are going to do something about each area. How's your mindset? How's your mindset? Do you wake up in the morning and do you say, good morning, God? Or do you wake up in the morning and say, oh, God, it's morning, right? Those are two very different approaches to the day. So when you wake up in the morning, it's important. You gotta get your mind right. Start your day with something positive. Listen to something positive, a podcast like this, or, as we mentioned, Todd Durkin, listen to his Impact podcast, or YouTube a motivational video, or get into your gratitude journal. Open up your Bible or your Torah or whatever it is that you're using. Help your mindset. How's your family relationships? Are you spending time with those that are most important? That's an important one. I know recently Cindy and I established that we don't have the date nights that we should. So that's something I'm going to work on. And that's also going to fall under another area. There's other family relationships. We've had a great relationship with my mom these last couple of years. We've really helped each other through these difficult times in our world. So very lucky to still have her in my life. Professional. Where are you at professionally? Whatever you do for work, or, if it's maybe more of a hobbyist, maybe you're retired now, but, whatever that thing is that you're doing to fill that professional space with, that thing that you're trying to get more excellent at each day and that you're trying to move up with, how would you rank that? For me, we tried to launch a franchise in 2020 when the world shut down. So this is a big year for me because I know that we're not through everything yet. There's certain variants that they're talking about. But 2022 is now going to be our launch year. So 2022 is where I essentially started a new career as a franchisor. So super excited for that. Financial. We talked about this earlier, like in the accomplishments. Did you pay down some debts, or, where are you feeling financially? Feel like you need to create more revenue in your life, more income streams. It's not always about getting a raise at work. It could be that you just have a little side hustle, right? So financial, rank that on a scale of 1 to 10. Circle of genius. The first one that I heard talk about this was Ken Blanchard. He said, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. That means that you will have average interest. You'll have average incomes. You'll spend your time just like the average of the group. So really important, your circle of genius. Who's in your life that, is helping you, and who's in your life that's hurting you? As you can set goals in this area, you might want to set goals to spend more time with people that inspire you. They say that your perfect mentor, I heard this one from John Lee Dumas in The Uncommon Path to Common Success. There's like 17 steps. But what he talked about is he says, your perfect mentor is where you want to be, exactly where you want to be 1 year from now. So don't try to look up and say, oh, Richard Branson, he's my mentor. I mean, tough to get to where Richard Branson is in 1 year. Most would say impossible. But if there's somebody that's just a little bit above you, it's something that you want to do or excel at, or habits that you want to have, maybe it's going to the gym or reading books, spend more time with that person. Ask them what they're reading. Say you want to read it too. Have your own little one-on-one book club. Adventure. What kind of adventure do you have in your life? Are you taking adventures? When I say that word, if you don't remember the last time you had any, then you might want to rank that kind of low and do something about it. Life is meant to be lived. There's a great quote, and it says, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. So what makes you come alive? That's adventure. I know 1 year with my daughter, we climbed Mount Quandary. That was a 14,000 foot mountain in Colorado. While we were there, we also did some whitewater rafting. That was an adventure. Recently, I got to take my wife for a big 5-0 to Las Vegas, and we zip lined down Fremont Street. I mean, that was an adventure. So some adventures don't require you to travel very far. You can go for hikes in nature. You can just plan a great trip. You can do a Spartan, you can do a DECA event at Journey. Sometimes our workouts are an adventure. So come on in and have some adventure. Love. I talked about that, how there was a little overlap because my wife is part of my family, the most important part there. And love, you see, where are you at with your love life? Maybe I'm got some listening and you feel like, well, I don't even have a significant other right now. Maybe your big goal is to get out and meet people. Or if you do have a significant other, maybe like me, you need to have a goal for some date nights. Thing to remember about love is that it's a verb. People talk about falling in and out of love as if it was a noun. But the truth is, it's about having acts of love that create more love. So think about that for a second. And then finally, impact legacy. What's this impact? How's the world going to be different because you were here? What's that legacy that you leave behind? Now, legacy a lot of times means to many people, oh, well, I got a home that I'm leaving to the kids and, a little bit in the bank account, things such as that. But I'd challenge you to go a bit deeper on that. What are the stories that they'll tell about you? How have you made a difference to where even after you're gone, you're still going to live on? I heard it said one time that we have two deaths. One is, of course, the date that we die. The other is the date that someone else dies is the last word, the last one who's breathing your name, right? That's legacy. Let's hope that we can make a legacy that goes on for generations after us because we've done something so great. Think about that for a second. Those, my friends, are your 10 forms of wealth. So 10 forms of wealth, what your next job would be is you can go back and listen to this because if you're working out while you're doing it, or if you're riding in the car, if you're out for a run or whatever, you can go back and listen to this part and then just write down those topics that I gave you, those little areas of your life, and then do a 3 and 30. Say, I'm going to set 3 goals in each of these areas in the next 30 days to where I can take whatever ranking I gave it and I can move that ranking out so that it's closer to a 10. Try to do that. And if you're overwhelmed by 3 goals in each area, set 1 goal in each area. Set 1 goal in your most important area. That way your life gets a little bit better. Those are the 10 forms of wealth. And I always like to do those after I've done, a roadmap and maybe like a little quarterly assessment. You can do monthly assessments just looking at the 10 forms of wealth. So I touched on this with the Circle of Genius. There's a good quote that says, you will be the same person in 5 years as you are today, except for who you meet and the books you read. So let me ask you, what books do you need to read? Who do you need to spend more time with? For me, I am going to a franchise conference in February, and I've already signed up for a couple different networking events because who I need to spend more time with, I probably haven't even met yet. I mean, there are others, shout out to Bedros Koulian, who is the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp. He's given me some great mentorship. So that was an important relationship in my life for where I wanted to go. There are other people that are around me right now. You guys are the regular fitness enthusiasts that I get to see in the gym and do my workouts with. And I need to spend more time with you because if I'm not spending regular workout time with you, I might not be getting in my regular workouts, right? So that's important too. And then, what relationships? I had mentioned earlier that I was even grateful for my daughter's struggles because it helps her to become more the woman that she's going to be someday. So when I think about, who I need to spend more time with, obviously, if there's an open door for that, you want to have it. Sometimes, though, with our kids, we just need to be a lighthouse, right? And a good quote is, lighthouses don't go looking for boats, right? Sometimes as our kids become adults and maybe they have a little less time for us and a little different focuses, we just have to be the lighthouse. We just have to stand there and let them know that we are there. But, we can't necessarily always put ourselves into certain people's schedules. So who can you schedule your time with? And, think about that for a second. So whoever does not increase you will eventually decrease you. So who do you need to spend less time with? That's a tough question, right? Who's not making the cut? I heard something the other day that a football coach starts with over 100 people, and these are all amazing athletes. It's got to be the toughest job in the world because then they have to cut it down to less than half that makes up their team. So they're cutting talented people every week, right? I mean, and they're affecting people's lives. I mean, it could have made millions of dollars and now they're cut. So sometimes we have to be like that coach. Sometimes we have to say, I find out that I want to drink less in my life, but every time I hang out with these people, I find myself drinking, right? So if you have a goal to drink less, then you might want to hang out with people that help you drink less, right? And that means that you're going to be spending less time with other people. What else is holding you back? I'll tell you one thing that holds me back. Social media. Social media holds me back. I can just get sucked into so many different posts, and before I know it, I'm on an ad and I'm looking at something that I never had any intention of looking at. And I'm like, oh, where did the time go? So a great way to start your day is to not open up your phone. My commitment in the new year is to try to do less of that. Try to not do it at all. However, you know how things go, right? We ebb and flow and we have to keep on recentering and refocusing ourselves. But I mean, is it TV? Is it social media? They say that the average person spends 2 to 3 hours a day on social media. Wow. Even at the low end, that's 14 hours a week. That's crazy, isn't it? 14 hours a week. So after just 10 weeks, you've already almost spent, let's see, we're going to go 12 weeks. 12 weeks, you've already gotten a week. Every 12 weeks, you've gotten a week. Wow, that's crazy. Crazy to think about. And then how many weeks are there in a year? 52. So about roughly 5 weeks a year on social media. Wow, 5 weeks. So after 10 years, you've spent a year on social media. 20, 30, 40 years from now. Wow, you could have gotten a college degree instead of being on social media, right? It's just crazy to think about. So what's holding you back? Is it poor nutrition? Is it excessive alcohol? Is it social media? Whatever it might be. Think about that for a second. What books will you read this year? For me, I know the topics that I'm pursuing. I'm pursuing franchising. I'm pursuing marketing a franchise. So there will be books on marketing. I'm always pursuing personal development. I love Wayne Dyer. I'm just a big Wayne Dyer fan, and his voice is so soothing to me. And I can just listen to him when I'm sometimes stressed out or in not such a great mood. And all of a sudden it'll just change, So definitely encourage you to do things like that. So what is it for you? What is it for you? Remember, you're my guest today. You're my guest. I'm asking you the questions and you got to answer. Answer wherever you are, in your car, in your house, out for a run. Answer those. Like, what topic interests you most? Maybe it's running. Maybe it is nutrition. Whatever that is, read about it. They say that if you read 10 books on any subject, you'll know more than 98% of the rest of the world. So if you're looking to become an expert on a certain subject, start reading the books. Here we are, brain dump. It's time for a brain dump. What's everything that you would like to accomplish? Let's just dump it all out, big or small, everything you'd like to accomplish. Are there certain debts, credit cards, things you'd like to pay off? Let's look at that. Would you like to take a certain trip this year? Look at that. Maybe that's part of that adventure one that we talked about. Certain goals that you have with your family, like maybe you want to spend a certain amount of time with a son or a daughter or a spouse or, maybe a sibling or a cousin. If you want to get them in your schedule each week, go ahead and put that down. Let's see, professionally, where do you want to be? Start thinking about these different goals. Maybe you want to pay down debts, buy a new home, whatever it is. No goal is too big or too small. Just start rattling it off. Or maybe you want to do a 5K, or maybe you want to do a Spartan event, or maybe you want to do a DECA event. Maybe you want to lose 20 pounds. Maybe you want to get in the best shape of your life. What is it? What is it? Maybe there's a certain chronic injury that you need to address. Maybe it nags at you, but you don't do anything about it. Maybe you don't see a PT, you don't see a chiropractor, you don't see an acupuncturist. You haven't told the doctor about it. Maybe it's time to just actually get scheduled with your doctor and get a little review of all your health and see what you can do about certain areas. So those are the types of things that can become goals. And from those things, you'll have a big 5 for life. You'll say, all right, some of these goals were pretty big. Like maybe I can't pay off my house in just a year, but I do want to have my home paid for someday. Or if you're me and, you're going to become more of a franchisor this year, maybe there's a certain number of franchises that you'd like to have. Or, what else would I like to do? Maybe if you're like me and you love to travel, maybe you'd like to see a certain part of Europe or maybe a certain part of Asia. I know travel can be a little restrictive, but this is your big five for life. Things aren't going to stay how they are. It will get better. So what is it? What is it that you want to do? Is it franchises? Is it business ownership? Is it making an impact in people somehow? Is it that you want to coach a certain sport or impact your kids in a certain way, or, help your kids get on to certain colleges, or, what is it? What is it you'd like to do? That becomes part of the big five. 5 things you must accomplish in your life. And here's a question. If you're having a hard time figuring out, what is that big 5? I want to ask you this. What's one thing that you would do in 2022 if you knew you would not fail? Yeah. What's one decision you would make in 2022 if you knew that you would not fail? Sometimes we have to ask ourselves that question, because the reason that we don't set most things as a goal is because we're worried about failure. But once you know that one thing, you just got to go and do it. Because it's not the things that we do in life that we regret the most. It's things that we don't do. I have a friend, Joe Burns. He started his own business this year, right? That was a big decision for him. So he just jumped out there on his own. But I know he's been real busy, and good for him that he's really making things work. But, what's one thing that you would do if you knew you would not fail? Ask yourself that question. We'll answer it. And then we'll boil it down to the big 5 for 2022. This can be personal, professional, financial, relational, spiritual, physical goals. I know that for me, in 2022, I'm going to get in excellent shape, best shape of my life. I'm already starting to work on that, and I'm going to make sure that I'm really dialed in. Come the new year, we have a new year, new you at Journey, and I'm looking forward to doing that with the members. Relationally, I definitely want to grow in those most important relationships, which has to do with your circle of genius, has to do with your spouse, has to do with your immediate family. Those are the things that I've already talked about in this episode, my wife, my daughter, things such as that. So, what are they for you? Financially, we were looking at getting a new home. That's an important decision. Professionally, I need to grow as a franchisor. What do you need to grow as? What's your job? Or what's your hobby? So 2022. And then what's more important, I ask people this all the time. As a coach at Journey, I'll say, hey, what's your long-term goal? And they're like, I want to be down 50 pounds. And I'm like, okay. So we got to take that a pound at a time. But good news for everybody taking things a pound at a time. Here we are coming up on the new year. 1 year is 52 pounds if you're doing 1 pound per week, right? So a year from now, you'll wish you started today, because this time next year, when we're doing another episode and we're talking about what our goals are for 2023, you could be that person that's down 50 pounds. But when we're talking about vivid descriptions, the thing that's important about that is not what the long-term goal is, and it's not what the short-term goal is next week, but what is the process goal, right? Like, for example, if I wanted to sell 20 franchises in 2022, let's say that's the goal. We're going to do a big launch. We're going to sell 20 franchises. Well, that's over 1 per month. That's about 1 3/4 per month. Tough to sell 3/4 of a franchise, but that's how the average is going to work out. Okay. So what do I need to do? Is there a certain number of people that I need to talk to and a certain number of appointments that I need to have? And you can learn these types of numbers pretty well, right? Because it might be that for every 40 people that click on a button and say that they're interested, you'll talk to 1, right? And out of the ones that you talk to, maybe only half of those will really, make a difference. So now that you start to do the number, okay, I need 80 so I can talk to 2 so I can get 1, or maybe I need 120 so that I can talk to 3 so I can get close to that 1.75. So what is it that you have to do? Like, if we want to go back to the whole fitness thing, let's talk about that. I want to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Okay, you want to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. What are you going to do? Okay, I'm going to cut out the bread. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. I'm going to cut out the alcohol. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. That becomes a vivid description. You start saying, well, this is how I'll live. I will work out 3 times per week. I will record what I eat. I will cut out the sweets or the chocolate or the bread or the alcohol. And now suddenly, through that vivid description where you can actually see how you're going to do something, you will be able to accomplish it. This is actually one of the most important parts of the roadmap right here. So what's the one big thing that must happen in 2022 to make it your year? What will it be? What will it be? For us, we have to establish all of our locations as franchises. We have to begin to sell more franchises. We will look to establish a flagship location in a city that people want to travel to. And that will be our training center for people that are going to be starting a franchise. They have to come for training. So there's some important stuff going on in my life in 2022. And I'm just sharing all that with you right now. This is you and I just chatting it up. You're my guests on the podcast today. So who will it be? What will you do? What's that one thing that needs to happen in 2022 to make it your most important year? And now finally, my friends, I'm going to leave you with this. If your eulogy was being read, what would it be? What would it be? It's an important one, because what you have the opportunity to do, if you can see that, is you have the opportunity to reverse engineer your life. There is a book that Wayne Dyer, I was listening to Wayne Dyer one day and he talked about it. It was by Leo Tolstoy and it was called The Death of Ivan Ilyich. So you already know how the story's going to end, right? Because the title is Ivan's going to die, right? But the important part of the story was, you see, Ivan lived his life and he was a judge and he was kind of resentful of his life because he felt like he was kind of driven into doing this, by his family, by his spouse. They wanted to be prominent people. And he was very resentful and he lived a pretty miserable life every day, just kind of, hating life. And so at the end of the book, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, he's looking at his wife and he's holding her hand and he's on his deathbed. And he says, what if my whole life has been wrong? What if my whole life has been wrong? And the message in that is that we don't want to die with our music still in us. You were given a music, and we talked about that at the beginning of the episode. This is your music. It's yours alone. It's a music that you're meant to play. Super important stuff. And so for me, when I thought about writing my eulogy, I'll share it with you right now. I'll share with you what I wrote. It's all about what you want people to say. How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? Well, this is what I wrote down for mine. Here it is. Here it is, friends. That's my eulogy. Think about what you'd want people to say about you. Travis Barnes was a man's man. He was a loving husband, son, and father. His only regret was not enough quality time with Cindy and Destiny. He was always willing to stand up for his beliefs, even if it cost him everything. He dared to do things others did not. He was a fighter. He had a passion for fitness and loved a good workout. He was compassionate, loved his family and his friends. In fact, his friends became his family. Travis lived by the philosophy that friends were family that we meet along the way. He worked hard, but not as a workaholic. He worked hard as a man with a purpose to leave this world better than how he found it. And with all that he did, from being an entrepreneur, fitness coach, life coach, leader, speaker, podcaster, writer, and leaving a franchise that will continue to grow after he is gone, it is safe to say that he did that. There is not one person who had a significant relationship with Travis who was not better for it. Travis had a unique perspective on life. He was deeper than most, and a single conversation with Travis could make you better. As a leader, he blazed a trail so he could bring others along. He shared his wisdom with the world through multiple platforms. He became a coach and helped others become coaches. He became an author and then helped others become authors. As a presenter, he helped others become presenters. And finally, as a franchisor, he shared his business success, helping others to have successful businesses to run that will continue long after he's gone, making communities healthier, marriages stronger, and families better. And I play a little Drift Away, sing some karaoke, and that's that. So my friends, What would you like to be said about you? Notice that even as I wrote that, I still have a regret that I could fix. That's right. You know, I know sometimes I work too hard and we spend our time being busy, and are we busy with what's most important? So that's my challenge to you. Think about what you want to be said, go and reverse engineer your life, set some goals, have some vision in your life. Very important, because if you're not running with vision, then you're running blind. We need to figure out what we're running towards. We need to figure out what we need to move away from. The secret to having your best life is knowing those things that make your soul sing and going and doing them. So from us, my co-partner there, Cindy Barnes, my normal co-host, and myself, Travis Barnes, to all of you, wishing you a very happy 2022. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Overcomers Podcast, sponsored by Journey 333. When I am not hosting the Overcomers Podcast, I am working at one of our fitness franchises so that I can continue to help people overcome adversity on a daily basis. That's right, people come to the Journey 333 fitness franchises because they want a coach in their life. They want somebody to help them overcome the adversities of life, motivate them to higher levels of greatness, bring out their potential, help them lose weight, get off medications, fight depression, fight anxiety. That's what we do on a regular basis. If you feel like you want your life to be about helping more people to overcome their adversities, if you feel like you're an overcomer and you want to create more overcomers, then maybe owning a Journey 333 franchise would be for you. To find out more, go to www.journeyfitness333.com.